Ken, you're from Michigan. You grew up as a young musician. You spent a lot of time up at the Interlochen Academy in the summers. You were a horn player in the orchestra. When you hear the opening of the last movement of Brahms' First Symphony, how does that take you back in the time machine that is music?
I started out at Interlochen as a trumpet player. I was a 10-year-old cornet player, but I took music talent exploration under a guy named Arthur Williams from Oberlin College. And every week he'd try a different instrument. By the seventh week, he said, yeah, try the French horn. You buzz your lips. But Ken, it's so much more diverse. It's so much more interesting than a cornet. So at age 10, I began to think about this. This might be the instrument. And when I came back in 1957 as an intermediate camper, I was solidly a French horn player. So I came back in 1961. I didn't think I had a very good audition, but the horn teacher there, Marvin Howe, said, Ken, I'm putting you first chair because you've been around for a while. You know where the music goes. You're a nice guy, but you'll find your proper spot by the end of the first week when you'd be challenged by somebody better. Well, what he didn't know is I'd been first horn in the Michigan Youth Symphony all that previous year, and we played Sibelius' Second Symphony, great horn part. And that's what we were playing that week. So I was able to keep my seat. I lost it for a couple of weeks, but for the final week, you always played a Brahms symphony and you always played Liszt Les Prelude. And for me to have the opportunity to play those wonderful horn calls at the top of that da 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 ti was a great thrill. Then, of course, the next year, we're going to the White House. Well, I'll be first horn at the White House. And I got to tell you, these sophomores and juniors came up, cleaned my clock. I barely got into the White House Orchestra, but it just goes to show that's what's great about Interlochen. You got that next generation always coming up. And most of those kids that followed me became professional horn players.
One of the big moments that you share in your book is a moment that you spent in the dressing room with Leonard Bernstein. Tell us about bringing him under your leadership back to Hill Auditorium with the Vienna Philharmonic.
Now, I knew, and he knew, that he was planning a 70th birthday tour the following year, and there would only be a limited number of invitations. And so one of the things you loved about Bernstein was he would meet every single person that was in line to meet him backstage. And that might be 2 hours, because that line would go out the door. And don't you love that about an artist of his stature? Anybody in line, I'm going to meet. And so it's midnight. He's finally there. So I go in. I'm tall. Bernstein is short. In any case, he's even shorter when he's sitting down. And I needed to ask him an important question. I decided to get on my knee to look him in the eye. And I said something like, Mr. Bernstein, next year, your 70th birthday and our 75th anniversary of Hill, we'd love to have you back next year. But these are his exact words. Ken, I love this town. I love the people of this town, and I love this hall. We'll be back. And sure enough, shortly thereafter, 4 cities were determined. There would be New York, Washington, Toronto, and Ann Arbor. But that was his last tour with the Vienna Phil. He died 2 years later. We feel so fortunate to have had him here. But you learn, take advantage of these opportunities when you can be with an artist alone.
What did it mean to have a giant and a man like Winston Marsalis to give the foreword to your memoir?
Well, he and I had become friends over the years, but I got to tell you, I had no idea he would do the kind of foreword that he did, and I cried when I read it, and I wrote to him right afterwards, and I said, "You know how much this means to me." And then he reflected on it and he said, I reread it and I cried, he said. So we had built a really special relationship, and what I love about what he wrote, Peter, is that it connects with any presenter in the world. Any one of us that does what I do. Winton was speaking to them. And in effect, it was his love letter to a presenter, no matter where you are. I knew that he liked UMS, but when he wrote in there, I've been touring for 40 years and nobody does it better than UMS, was really It was really very touching.